You are tuned in to Healing Conversations with me, Ndhlovu. And tonight, I still continue my discussion with Gail Motlong. She's an author, a television producer and host, as well as an MC. She's an acclaimed woman of God who has authored several books and is now a mother. In part one of my discussion with her, we spoke on her journey towards motherhood, how she was at some point labeled barren simply because she was in a marriage and could not conceive. Well, today we are continuing with part two of our discussion. Let's tune in and let's talk about the double standards there.
Yeah.
You face this dilemma where you identify, oh, we've been trying for so long, and as a woman, you are willing to go to the gynecologist.
Yes.
Why are men not willing
Exactly.
to go to the urologist?
Exactly.
The double standard.
Double standard. And when they find that the woman doesn't really have a problem, and still the man feels, no, we can't have kids, or even the whole family. You know, and one of the things I learned in the journey, that's why I never, responded to the email that I got after receiving those words. I said, what they don't know is that two things can happen. It's either the person can have the problem themselves, or both of you can have kids but not together.
Yes.
I can't remember the biological term that they use for that, because majialona ha kopani kore how it doesn't happen that lona halika kopana ngwana tla bateng hano bateng, or even the circumstances that your relationship is at, like the stressful and toxic environment, but it doesn't mean if you were to go separate ways, you know. Kare, I'm not gonna even, you know, when it comes to I'm not even gonna insult back.
Yeah.
I could have used that even now to say, now I can have a child.
Yes.
So
what
now
do you
let
say?
me exactly.
Yeah.
Kare, no. It doesn't matter. It's not even. It's none of my business. You know, because what's important right now is that Mudimu is glorified, and I believe that this will give another woman hope that, hey, luena Mudimu tla fa ngwana, luena one day Mudimu tla le fa ngwana ka nako ya hae. And you know what I've learned in this situation is that insult. Today I have the last laugh.
Yes.
I look at my baby every time like, Nana.
You are the testimony of God.
You're like it's just so amazing. It just makes me fall more and more in love with God, and to experience the unconditional love. You know how that love, I can't explain it. I never knew what is unconditional love until I held my baby. And that alone, it now explained to me lerato la Modimo towards us.
Oh yes.
Now I know how God loves me, because I know what is love, how it feels like to love someone wholeheartedly, because that is the kind of love that oozes through me when I look at my baby, when I hold my baby, you know. So for me, I always have hope. When a woman, I remember there was a woman of God who approached me and said, you know, I had a miscarriage. Mind you, she was once pregnant, she had a miscarriage with twins. Now they're struggling to conceive. She's now being named barren. How can you, already you knew this person was once, she once conceived.
Yes.
Why would you even name them like that? Why would you call them names and insult them? That is the dilemma she's facing at the moment. I said to her, let them laugh. You will have the last laugh. God is able. God is able. And for me, that has been, every time when I come across somebody or somebody approaches me, I say, God, bonza bolo ba hao.
Yes.
Let it be known
that you are God. Yeah. I think society is not empathetic to women who face a struggle.
Yeah.
And with conception. And also, I think I should also rephrase my own statement here. Society is not empathetic to couples who face challenges with conception.
Yeah.
Because often enough, the main approach is that it's the woman.
Yes.
It's a given, it's the woman. And often enough, we allow that, that narrative to alter the perception of the woman herself.
Yes.
Not taking into consciousness the mental effect.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
the erosion of the
Yeah.
self-confidence, the fact that we belittle someone with our words, the
Yeah.
fact that we are placing so much burden
Yeah.
on someone who has no power to change
Yes, yes.
what they are going through.
Yes. You know, when you talk about the mental health, I remember there was a time where at some point I felt like, you know, I could say it was as if my spirit was fighting against my body. I can't explain how I felt at that time, but I was broken, you know, and it affects your mental health in such a way that, you know, people will ask questions, "Why not?" And you're like, if only you knew where I'm at. It reminded me of the story of Hannah. You know, they just couldn't understand. You know, when the man of God found her in the temple and he thought she was drunk, and she said, "I'm not drunk."
Yeah.
She was now in a place of desperation, at the same time feeling like, Mudimu, if it's not you, then who? You need to come forth and make this happen for me, because how na motho o mong hape. That's why she went back to the temple. She could have decided to go to a tavern and drink herself.
She could have drunk her sorrows away.
But she was like, she understood, Mudimu, kwena fela, who can get me out of this situation. And I love her journey because in the process, you know, when she was being belittled as well by the other woman,
Penina.
Mudimu are ke tlo ema bo Penina ba bangata, they will always be there.
They will.
And I thank God for bo Penina because that is where you will see God working.
They will push you to your knees.
Yes.
They will push you to that place where you know my help cometh only from the
yes,
Lord.
Yes.
I do not have control over this.
Yeah.
This can only be changed by God.
True, true. And that is, you know, that was my journey. And when I look at her, I can relate a lot with her journey. And I still have friends, you know, I have friends who are still expecting God to come through for them. And when they hear my story, they become hopeful. And I'm like, we are in this together, guys. You know, God is faithful. And I remember telling my friend, you know, she has a very supportive husband, you know, who stands by her. And, you know, she's the first Makoti. And the other Makotis already have kids.
The pressure.
The pressure is there, you know. Yeah. But because of a man who's standing by her, she's hopeful. She can smile because of that, you know. So for me, hence, I always say, you know, to couples, be that, you know, you married this person, be that encouragement to say, we are in this together. It becomes a challenge when the woman is just alone.
Yes.
That is where they are affected. Their mental health it's challenged in many ways. They become suicidal.
Very.
They become drunkards.
Depressed.
So depressed. You know, a woman who would wear heels and put on makeup, the depression is written on their face because of that.
Yeah.
And you know, I cannot stress this enough. As a woman, even whether usona le ngwana kapa ona yena, never ever utter words to another woman and tell them you are barren, you are cheap, you know, you are worthless because you can't call yourself a woman if you can't have kids. Never. To an extent, I've observed a pattern these days whereby they say you are not woman enough just because you gave birth. That's C-section. Do you see how the society is so messed up?
Life-threatening pregnancies.
Yes.
Instances where the mother could have died, the baby could have died.
You know, you'd read it's like, no, you need to give birth naturally to show that you are a woman, because that is how it was made to be. You are not woman enough if you gave birth, that's C-section. Do you see how people break other people? Meaning that if you are holding your baby after C-section, you still don't feel woman enough because of that. So, kids are the challenges still we are facing
as society.
And it's up to us, especially as women. You know, if there's one thing, women, I don't know, women, they just enjoy, you know, just hurting each other.
Yes.
And not realizing that if women can actually stand together to say, there are certain things I can mock another woman about, maybe about how they look, because that's how people will be. But there are certain things like calling a person barren. I should not even play there, because that is not even my department. Only God knows what He's doing.
Yes.
You know, and even it doesn't justify, even just looking at another woman and saying certain things about them, it doesn't give you any right. But unfortunately, we live in a world whereby these things are happening. But it's up to us, those who are saying, I want to be a woman who carries other women.
Yes.
Who is able to encourage another woman to say, le haibe doctor said to you, you can't have kids, or you have an infection, or you have this, there's that. But mudimu, ki mudimu, ya for this amalwetsi ohle.
He's above any
He's above
sickness.
anything, and He will take that away. And for me, that is the cry of my heart, that, you know, women can learn to carry each other, especially when it comes to sensitive things like this.
Yes.
Rather keep your mouth shut.
If you don't know what to say.
Rather keep your mouth shut.
We've covered episodes that we've dedicated to the topic of infertility. Well, our intention and our objective was simple: to educate and to start the conversations that bring us healing when we deal or address people who are struggling with conception, be it in a marriage or in a relationship. When a person feels ready for motherhood or parenthood, in the case of our fathers, and it doesn't happen, it becomes a journey of disappointment, a journey of hurt, and in interacting with the society, a journey of labeling. To some extent, also rejection. This prompted me to have a discussion with Dr. Jackson Ndhlovu, a fertility specialist and endoscopic gynae, whose area of specialty involves reproductive medicine. I was curious to know, what are the numerous causes of infertility? And from my discussion with him, the reasons are vast. So let's pay attention to this discussion, and hopefully it sheds light on many of us' struggle, so that we can continue seeking the help that we need to realize our dreams of parenthood.
Some of the conditions that will lead to mental health issues like depression, endometriosis, because endometriosis, to define it, is when the lining that makes a woman see her periods or menstruate monthly is not within the cavity of the womb, it's outside the womb.
Okay.
So what usually happens during menses, you don't only menstruate from the womb vaginally out, even in the abdomen, those cells are deposited there. They cause severe pain, unbearable pain. And if it's worse, you can get those endometrial cells in the vagina. So those young girls or young women, they can't even have sex because of the pain associated with the endometriosis. They can't even socialize because of the pain. Some of them can't even go to work. Some of them, they can't even go to school. They are labeled psychotic, attention-seeking, because whenever they see their periods, they become so sick.
Like
they
severely.
become non-functional. Some vomit, some can't even go to school, some can't even do anything for the next coming 2 to 3 days, 4 days. And because it affects close to 15% of the population, the majority, they say, she just wants attention.
Yeah.
It can't be normal. You know, people have been menstruating and nothing happens. That this one. So that on its own, it leads to these young women having a problem to even socialize and tell people that during menses I'm sick. If it happens that they get married, the husband says, but why don't you want to be intimate with me, because you always complain that you are in pain. What's causing the pain? Have you been raped before? You know.
Yeah,
so they
yeah.
end up talking things that really is not good to the poor woman, and she doesn't even know what is happening, because it has been shown, but that almost in the majority of cases, it takes 7 to 8 years for the right diagnosis to be made. Because they're not well assessed, they're not well examined. Worldwide, it's not even local. Worldwide, most of the patients with endometriosis, they end up either being depressed or end up in a divorce, because nobody knows, and that can explain to them what is their pathology.
Yeah.
I saw a patient just last week. She was seen by an OBGYN. A hysterectomy was done for severe period pains, and they left the nodule. She's married. She went to an extent of saying, Doc, I wanted to have more kids, but because I was advised that I must remove the womb that's the one that's giving me problem. Only found that it's not the womb that's giving her problems. What's giving her problems is the endometriosis, which is located in the vagina. So they removed the womb, they left the nodule. She's still in pain.
Yeah.
So life is just unbearable for her. And it became where she even had complications intraoperatively. So this condition can affect any part of the pelvis and can make someone to be depressed. Another condition that depresses young women is polycystic ovarian syndrome, where they've got lots and lots of cysts, and it leads to them not seeing their periods on a month-to-month basis, and they can't conceive because they don't know when they are going to ovulate. Therefore, most of these patients, especially 60-70% of them, are either obese, they've got acne, and they've got what we call hirsutism, which is male like distribution of hair.
Or like
They've
these
got
women get beards.
Yes, beard in the chest, upper abdomen, thighs. They're seen labeled as men. They're not men, they're just hyperandrogenic. They've got high androgen levels. And these androgens are the one that makes them not to see their periods on a month-to-month basis. They are easily depressed because they've got a condition that they themselves don't understand. They're labeled as men. How will she conceive because she's a man? You understand?
Yeah.
Have you seen her? She's got beard, she's got this. It's just a condition. Androgenism. There's treatment to that. You know, there might not be cure, but there's treatment. You can treat such patients, and they do conceive. I mean, you've seen most of these women with kids, despite them being hyperandrogenic. But if they don't know and they don't see the right specialist, they end up being depressed because they're labeled as men. That's the reason why they don't even see their periods. You understand? So that's another condition that can depress young women. Men, if they are told that they don't have sperm, or they automatically become depressed. Despite them, because they don't know that they can still have sperm depending on the condition that you have. There's two conditions where if you don't have sperm, but you can impregnate someone, is when you got hypo. It means the problem is in the brain. Your brain is not producing enough hormones. Therefore, we give them Clomid or clomiphene citrates, the same medication that we give women to induce ovulation. We give men for a period of 6 months, and so that spermatogenesis can start taking place and develop. And those men where there's obstruction, we can aspirate the sperm from the testes, and we can use the sperm to make their partner pregnant.
What is aspirate? Extract.
Extract.
Okay.
So most men tend to fall into depression very easy because we identify manhood with the presence of sperm.
Yes.
Once you are told,
having a baby.
Once you are told that you don't have sperm, automatically you just get depressed, which is not fair, because ideally, once you do a first sample, you are supposed to be advised and to be told, look, first sample is not adequate. We have to repeat this sample so that as we can exclude other conditions like retrograde ejaculation, where instead of the sperm going out, it goes into the blood because there's a dysfunction of the valves around the ejaculatory duct. So instead of the sperm going out, it goes into the blood. If they urinate and look for sperm, you find it. So men tend to fall in depression very easy as compared to women. But because women, the condition starts when they're still teenagers and young. They grow with this condition and they start asking themselves, my friends now, they've got kids, they've got families.
What's wrong
with me?
Yeah.
Then they start saying things like, God doesn't exist. I've been going to church since as a teenager. Do you understand? So these are conditions that affect them mentally and otherwise. So there's always a solution to whatever conditions that people think there's no solution. There's always a solution. Something can be done.
We've had very positive and somewhat concerning feedback from our viewers since we started covering the topic of infertility. And I just want to share with you what some of the people who have reached back to us say on their experiences and, of course, on how the series has affected their lives. Of course, for purposes of respecting their privacy, I'm not going to disclose their names. I'm going to share with you one viewers' remarks when it comes to her own journey. And she says, a sad story with a happy ending. She's referring to the episode we covered with Dr. Winnie Mashaba. She says, I'm also going through that, but luckily God gave me a daughter 14 years back, but I'm struggling to get another child. And what fears me is that I'm in my 40s, but I still have hope for another child. Another viewer writes, I love you, Mama Winnie. God bless you and relebogile. Thank you, Pastor Ntabi Singh, for this amazing podcast. This remains one of the reasons why we must always be kind. We don't know what people are going through. She says, when she said, "Nekitlo and people will be shocked. In other words, I would collapse and people would have been shocked as to why I have collapsed. And she says, I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Shine, Mama Winnie, your testimony is so powerful. We must not brag what God can, we must not brag. What God can give, God can take. I'm humbled. This is an lesson to many of us that, the somewhat innocent remarks that we make can be triggers to other people. When someone is going through something and they don't necessarily share it with us, it doesn't take away what they are going through. So at most, what we need to do in our daily interactions with people is to be kind, is to be compassionate, so that we are able to offer them a lending hand or even an ear when they are going through difficulties. In the series that we have done on infertility, we've spoken to one lady, Ndhlovu, and she has indicated to us that, the pain of her journey, the hope that she continues to have, and the fact that, she's not willing to even give up on her dream of motherhood, says to us that we need to constantly carry people who are experiencing infertility in our prayers. Besides praying for them, the one step that we can take is to just mind our language, mind how we address people. Sometimes we make remarks that we think are innocent. We ask, how long have you been married? Oh, when are you going to have a baby? And when they have a first baby, we come, when are you going to have the second baby? And we may not even be aware that what we are dealing with is a case of someone who's struggling with infertility. So my plea is, countrywide, worldwide, let us mind our language. Let us mind our expectations. Let us, may the Lord help us to heal from the need that we have to impose our expectations on other people. When we ask them, when are you having a baby? We don't know how many miscarriages are behind what they are going through. We don't know the losses that they have suffered. We are not even aware of where the problem lies, or even if there is a problem. It's on shows like this that we hope to bring and create awareness. It's on shows like this where we pray that we start to raise the awareness that there is no person who can simply decide that I'm not going to have a child. Many people want to have children. And if they cannot, let us realize that it is in the will of God. It is God who gives, as one of our viewers says, and it is also God who takes. When He has blessed us enough to give us a child, then what we should be saying is all honor and glory belongs to Him. And when a child doesn't come, what we should be doing is standing on the promises and the hope of God and His word, knowing that the one who has promised is faithful. Our objective with the cover that we did on infertility has been realized. If we can turn our hearts towards mothers and fathers who are still in waiting and give them the love that they need, the love that God has in their lives. and allow our own children to be a blessing to those who don't have children as yet. May the good Lord bless you, and may the Lord continue to carry you through whatever difficulties that you are experiencing. May He continue to strengthen you as you walk your journey. And above all, may He fulfill every promise that He has made. The Bible says He opened the womb of Hannah after many years of barrenness. And when He said to Sarah that next year this time you will have a child, she laughed. May your promises that you are looking at God for, may they bring joy, and may they bring laughter, and may they bring faithfulness of who God is into your heart. It's been a wonderful edition of Healing Conversation. I am trusting to meet you again next week, right here on TBN, DSTV 343.
Subscribe to Healing Conversations on YouTube and access fresh content from Healing Conversations, the Table Podcast with Ndhlovu, available from April 2024. Also visit our online store to get yourself a copy of Ndhlovu's latest release, Maintaining Your Joy, a channel for daily positive living. The second edition, available now.